Hi, welcome. This is Selling Meat and Cheese on GrownBy, Strategies and Best Practices. We're presenting this webinar both because it's just a relevant thing for people to learn about always, and also because we had some recent changes to the platform that made selling these kinds of products better. And so we're going to get into both how our new features on the platform can support farmers in doing this kind of sales, and also how some things that you might do on that you've been able to do on GrownBy for a while that are still possible. So thanks for joining us. And we are recording, so feel free to turn off your video if you don't want to be recorded. My name is Dan. I am a customer support specialist for GrownBy, and I'll let the other folks who are here on our team introduce themselves.
I'm Kara Fravor. I do support for GrownBy.
Hey everyone, I'm Eric Sandard. I'm Director of Accounts and Partnerships for GrownBy. Welcome Hannah, Madison Creek Farm, friend and farmer neighbor.
Nice.
I'll be off camera most of the time, getting links and things that come up in the chat.
Thank you for playing that important role, Eric. So what we're going to do in this call is we're going to talk about different sales channels that you might want to use GrownBy to access. We're going to talk about setting up products and how you could set up products in different ways on GrownBy to sell meat and cheese, and basically anything that's sold in a large quantity or by the pound. We're going to talk about order editing, which is some of our newer features. We're going to talk about wholes and halves, quarters, that kind of thing. We're going to talk about subscriptions, and we're going to have discussion and questions throughout. We're a really small group on the call today, so we're really happy to stop and chat and talk about the specifics of what you're trying to do with your operation. And I would love for the folks who are on the call to introduce themselves in the chat and to tell us, how are you selling meat on GrownBy already, or how are you selling meat not on GrownBy already? What would you like to be doing? Just briefly or not briefly, tell us, what's bringing you here. I think that's it for introductions. So yeah, please put that info in the chat, and here we go.
So for most of you likely know this as GrownBy users, but GrownBy is built by Farm Generations. Farm Generations is a cooperative that's a multi-stakeholder agricultural cooperative. So we have both the farmers who use the platform are all invited to be owners of the cooperative, and also employees can be owners. And GrownBy is the product that we built. Some of our member owners are shown there on the right. And I think we probably have some member owners on the call today too.
So first, just briefly going to talk about sales channels that we support as GrownBy. So these are a few of the ways that you could sell on GrownBy. You could sell via home delivery, right? Someone orders on the online platform and then you deliver to them at their home. You could also sell in the same exact way for pickup locations. So on farm, at your market, other pickup locations in your community. We think of all of this as kind of like pre-orders, right? People are ordering before they actually receive the product, versus what we just introduced, which is GrownBy Register, which is for those sales that happen. The person receives the product at the same time that you receive the payment for the product, and that we just released in beta form GrownBy Register, which is a point of sale system for farmers markets and farm stores. So that covers that kind of use case of direct sales. And then, of course, our kind of where we started is CSAs and subscriptions. GrownBy was originally built for CSAs and still does that really well. We have a lot of features that work for all different kinds of CSAs, as most of you already know. And also we support folks to run a CSA that is not, just a vegetable CSA. You could run a meat CSA on GrownBy, or a cheese CSA, or a fruit CSA, whatever, bread CSA, whatever you do. GrownBy also supports shipping. Our shipping features are relatively rudimentary, but it is possible for someone to order something for shipping on GrownBy and for you to ship out that product. And then finally, Kara just stuck another sales channel in there, which is wholesale. And as far as this presentation is concerned, a lot of these different sales channels, you could set up your products different ways to address these different sales channels, but we just wanted to give a broad overview of like, what are the sales channels that are possible through GrownBy, possible to sell via through GrownBy. Kara, did you have anything else to add on sales channels?
I already added it.
Great. So then, yeah, getting into kind of the meat of this topic is, how do you set up products on GrownBy in order to make them easy to sell, easy for your customers to understand, easy for you to process orders, all of these kinds of things. And we have a handful of different suggestions about how you might set up products on GrownBy. I will also say that there are people who are doing lots of creative things out there, and who might have other ideas about how they are using GrownBy or might use GrownBy, but these are some of the ones that we see a lot. So the first one is addressed by our newest features, so exact weights with order editing. We just added order editing, and not that long ago, we also added variable weights, which allowed for both in the admin order creator, so like when the farm is creating an order, as well as when a customer has placed an order and the farm decides to edit that order. There's the ability to edit by increments of a given unit of product, and that's really exciting. That's kind of what enables these specific sized products to be sold on GrownBy. And then under that, we have 3 options that have been possible on GrownBy for a long time. And these are kind of the ways that we've advocated for farms to sell on GrownBy, primarily because we didn't have the ability to handle variable weights and order editing. But they're still really relevant, and they're still really great. And actually, I think that bundles are a really smart way to sell meat. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in detail later, but you could sell, a package of meat essentially for a given price, and that avoids the question of like, is this package of ground beef 1.1 pounds or 1.3 pounds? Subscriptions, I already mentioned, that's another great way to handle these kinds of sales. And then whole, half, quarter sales, with or without a deposit, depending on what you want to do, and with or without order editing, depending on how you want to set it up. There's a bunch of different ways that you can set up whole, half, quarter animal sales on GrownBy. So we'll talk about what some of your options are in this presentation. Does anyone have any questions so far before I move on? Does anyone have any thoughts or questions or ways that you already are selling meat that you'd like to talk about? I didn't look at the chat, but we're good. Okay. Onward then. So exact weights with order editing. Order editing is a feature that has to be turned on for your entire account. We will probably down the road refine this a bit so that order editing can be more specific to specific like categories or products, or but at the moment, if you have order editing turned on, it's on for all of your orders. And when order editing is turned on, you either have to manually fulfill, which is like finalizing that order in order for the invoice to be sent, or you can wait until the end of the distribution and that order will be automatically fulfilled and finalized and the invoice will be generated. That's just a really important thing to know about the ordering flow if you're using order editing. And we would recommend that if you are using order editing and say you're a CSA farm who is selling shares, and then you're also selling things a la carte, that you probably want to choose when you want order editing to be on. So you might want to not have order editing on when you're taking your subscription, your share orders, but you might want to turn it on down the road when you're only handling a la carte orders, just because often share orders don't need to be edited. And if they do, you can always cancel, refund, and resubscribe someone, and that might just be less clicks than fulfilling each order individually. Yeah, what's up, Kim?
Yeah, I just was curious when when it says that they will automatically fulfill at the end of the distribution. Can you give me like an example of the, like, when is the end of the distribution? Like, for example, right now our shares are like, they open on for customization on Fridays, and then we usually, it closes like Tuesday night, and then we get our pick list Wednesday morning. So does it close? Do they automatically fulfill at Tuesday night when that window closes?
No, so it's actually not that window, but the actual distribution window. So it would be when in your schedule you have like what day, Monday, we distribute these shares. Sorry, I'm already forgetting the days that you said, but we distribute these shares on Wednesday from 2 to 4. So it would be that they would automatically fulfill on Wednesday at 3:50.
So would we still get a pick list if those orders haven't been like fulfilled?
Yes. So all the products that are in those pending orders show up in the fulfillment reports. And so you would be able, as long as you don't change anything, right? In those, as long as you don't edit them after you've already started to pick, basically, you could just let it sit. Everything will work as normal.
Okay.
The thing that doesn't happen, and this is important for some farmers and not for others, it just depends on like your business model, is the invoicing piece. And in your case with custom shares, I think, unless I'm missing something, that there wouldn't really be like a reason that you need that like, you know, if there's $2 more on an order because they went over by $2, like you don't really need that to process right then. Probably you could probably wait until the end of the distribution for that to go.
Yeah, that would be okay. And also many people are on like a weekly or monthly payment.
Yeah, and that's totally separate. Like that's those invoices are not these. What we're talking about here is just any invoice that is related to the specific order, not a installment payment plan, which is a separate set of invoices essentially.
Right. So basically, instead of them, if they were actually paying for the full order, they'd be paying for it like when they get it versus like, you know, they pay for it and then they get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Unless you manually fulfill it, which you can really easily do. And then they're charged when the order is fulfilled.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. So just to say, like, you might want to use this kind of setup if you're going to be, you know, if you're going to have a bunch of sizes. We're going to get into an example right after this where we'll talk about the specifics of how this is set up and how it works. Carrie, anything to add there? Cool. Okay, so I have an example. I'm a sheep farmer, so my example is always leg of lamb. And in this example, and you know, obviously you could apply this to a lot of different things. I guess that's the point of an example. But in this example, we have two different sizes of leg of lamb. We have a half leg and a full leg. And but you could have, you know, like we also sometimes have like 5 and 6 pound legs, whatever. So this is how the product appears in the shop. What you're seeing here is two buying options, one that is the half and one is that is the whole, with two different prices. And just a note that it's important to be clear with the customer that they are checking out with a $50 product in this case, but their order total might be more or less than $50, depending on the size of the leg that I actually pull out of the freezer. And so say a customer placed an order for one of those buying options. In this case, this customer purchased the half leg. That order comes in. I have order editing turned on in this example. And I go into the order and I click edit. And this is what I see when I click on edit variable weight. I get this pop-up, and that pop-up allows me to, adjust the weight to whatever I actually have in the freezer. And it'll adjust the price. And remember, at this point, the customer has not actually been invoiced, right? This order is not fulfilled or finalized, so the customer has not been invoiced. So I can submit this change it to 2.7, submit the change, and that change will be saved in the system, and then we can move forward. And I just wanted to show you as well, the next step is, okay, how is this product set up on the back end? So in the example of leg of lamb, we have a unit that is pound, and this is going to be really common to use pound unit for lots of different meat products. If you're working with cheese, maybe you'll work in ounces instead. But in any case, you'll put in the unit that you most commonly use for this product, and in the in stock section, you'll put in your total amount of pounds that you want to sell. So in the case of leg of lamb, maybe I have like two 35-pound cases. That's 70 pounds. I put in 70 in the in-stock field in this product. And then your buying options are like your general sizes. So they could be something general like small, medium, large. In this case, it's one leg, half leg. And what I've done is put approximate weight into the buying option name as a way of indicating really clearly to the customer that they are going to get this approximate weight, not this exact weight. I also I'm trying to remember if it was in the last slide. In 2 slides ago, I also put in the short description of the product, price will be finalized after ordering depending on size available, right? So I'm just putting it everywhere that I can so customers are not blindsided by the fact that there might be an adjustment to their order after the fact. And then the unit size, or the units each, I'm sorry, is the size for that specific buying option. So within our variable weight system, things can be increased by 1 or decreased by 1 quantity. So if I have a 2.5, I could go up or I could go down. But I want to be like generally in the right size range within 1. So yeah. So that's what we put there in the units each. And when that product is purchased, hi Jeanette. And when that product is purchased, the in-stock quantity, the inventory quantity, will be decremented the units each amount, if that makes sense. So if it's a leg, the decrement will be 5, except in the case that I've edited it to 5.2, then it will be 5.2. And for a half leg, it'll be 2.5 or whatever I edited it to. Does anyone have questions about this example? Or yeah, Kara, do you have something to add?
I just wanted to add then that adjusted amount. So if it says like 2.7, that your label and your packing sheet will say like half leg approximate weight, and then it'll say like 2.7. So this is also what's going to be on your labels and your packing sheets.
Yeah, so you could double check yourself. Probably you have pulled that order aside, unless you just have such a big inventory that isn't the case, and you just know that you have 2.7 pound units. But in most cases, for most farms, I think they will have pulled that order aside, and you can double check, like, is what I actually have here true to what is on my label and my packing sheet? Yeah, go ahead, Kim.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, could you just clarify, like, what if someone ordered the meat and like the leg of lamb, and then can I print out their label, and then when we're packing the shares, we put the leg of lamb in, and then I note that it's 2.7 pounds, and then I go in and change their order and update it? That's going to be fine. On the label, it will still say that they're just getting a leg of lamb, and then I can adjust it then.
Yeah, I don't see why not. don't see why not. I think, you know, what Kara is pointing out is that if you do it beforehand, then the exact precise leg of lamb will be already on the label. But if that order isn't fulfilled, that order isn't fulfilled, and you could change it, you know. Even say someone shows up to their pickup and they're like, oh, actually, do you have a bigger one?
Mm.
You could swap it out, take note of that, and then fulfill it.
Okay, makes sense.
And probably your leg of lamb already says on the packaging how much the leg of lamb weighs. So in that way, the label may be sort of redundant.
Right. Okay.
But you would want to make sure that you make that change before the end of the distribution, because GrownBy will fulfill it at the end of the distribution. And then once that's done, then you would have to, you would have an inaccurate invoice essentially. Yeah, which could be, yeah, there are different ways that we could deal with that depending on the details, but it's not like super easy and clean to deal with. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think you'd have to do it right away before the distribution time ends. Yeah,
I think so too. Cool. So that is basically what is now possible with order editing and variable weights, which is very exciting, and we're really hopeful that that these features are going to just make life a lot easier and more accurate for a lot of the farmers who are using GrownBy. So I'm going to move on to whole and half animals unless anyone has anything else to share or questions.
Can I just say, I don't know that this is true for anybody who's on this call, maybe for Texas Tribal Buffalo, but like we have had farms on GrownBy that then they're putting in their exact weight for every piece of meat they have in their inventory. So then they had this like super long list, right? It's like we have 1.1 and 1.2. And so this makes for a much cleaner experience for the customer shopping. And in some ways, a much less labor intensive inventory management system for the farm.
Yeah, like 1,000 times less. Yeah, what's up, Kim? You're good. Cool. Cool. So whole or half or quarter animals. So this is another, you know, obviously popular way to sell meat. It's so nice to just have your cow that you sell in quarters, and you have just 4 customers instead of like 400 customers that buy a given cow. And so this is totally possible within GrownBy, and there are a lot of ways that you could set it up. And there are pros and cons to different ones. So we have gotten feedback from different farmers who are on the platform who have provided us with information about how they have used this. We've thought a lot about it, and we like the system of using a deposit and then discounting that deposit amount off of your later amount that you charge them, because you know you charge this deposit kind of way ahead of when you know what the size of that animal is actually going to be, let alone the hanging weight. And you find out the hanging weight later, and then you probably have like a per pound for hanging weight, or some people do this by live weight, some people do this by hanging weight, some people do it by cut weight. So there are just so many different ways to slice it, pun intended, that it's just nice to be able to be flexible, and GrownBy can kind of accommodate any of those ways. But we do like using our promotion system to later discount the deposit off. So I have a little chart here that Kara made that kind of lays out the options. So either your top deposit or the remaining balance can be set up as a digital product or a standard product. But there are pros and cons to each. So if you're a GrownBy user already, then you know that a digital product is a product that is free of schedules and locations. It is not attached to specific time and place, but a standard product is, right? So you might want to make this choice based on, do I know when I want my customers to pick up this thing, or do I want to leave it open and communicate down the road? So if you are willing and able to leave it open and communicate individually or as a group with your customers, then you can use digital products. And if you need the location and schedule to be spelled out, then standard products are what you're going to want. And also on the remaining balance side of things, if you're going to use a digital product, then you're not going to have a label that is tied to a specific schedule and location. So depending on whether you need that or not. But on the other hand, if you're using a standard product, then you can use variable weight and you can print labels and have all of your fulfillment reports fully fleshed out so you can have your products by location and all of that. So this might be a bit of a scale question for you, or it might just be a stylistic question. This is kind of like this matrix represents some different ways to do it, but there are other ways as well. And so we would love to talk with you about your specific situation and kind of make a best practices suggestion for your farm and what you're looking for and what would make most sense for you. Other questions about whole, half, quarters, turkey deposits? Kara, anything to add here? Cool. So I mentioned bundles previously. Kara, are you going to talk about bundles?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about bundles.
Awesome.
So bundles are standard product. They're like a box. I think this can also, if somebody is thinking about shipping meat, I know we have Texas Tribal Buffalo on the call. I think bundles can be a really effective method for shipping or for just sort of selling a lot more at once, right? So it's a standard product. It's a one-time offer. So it's not a subscription. It's just like a larger quantity of meat at once. Certainly, you could get one of these for a party, but you might be thinking about it just to like fill your freezer. So some examples are, we have seen on GrownBy, in looking around, we have folks who are selling like a 25-pound ground beef bundle. So maybe it's 25 1-pound packages of ground beef. You might have a 60-pound pork bundle that's all kinds of different cuts in one box. Again, this can be a way of like a whole or half animal, like moving some cuts that may not be as popular for all of your customers, but making sure that like you're selling all the cuts and kind of giving people a cool selection. We've seen some grilling boxes, right, that might have steaks or ribs or burgers. And then you can have smaller ones that are more like a sampler. So I saw like a salami sampler on GrownBy and checking out what people have on offer. Certainly we've seen sausage samplers. That can be a fun, less expensive way of doing a bundle. So you could have a bundle that is a $400 bundle, or you could have a $40 bundle, right? You can kind of make it whatever you need. And I think, again, depending on the sizes that you choose, these could be a way for someone to really stock their freezer, or to just kind of like buy some meat from a farm that's maybe more of a more frequent purchase. I think that's everything. Does anybody have questions about that, or a way that they do it, or a bundle they've ever bought that they've been like psyched about?
I have a question on the bundles. When we sell them online through y'all, do we have to put in like approximate weight, or can we put like a various weight? Like it's going to be approximately 25 to 30 pounds, or do we have to put the exact weight?
You don't have to. It's up to you, whatever you want to put. I think that one of the perks of these is that you can say like this 60-pound pork bundle ranges between, 55 and 60, whatever, 58 and 62 pounds. And then you're not worrying like, what about the size of this roast?
Yes.
Well, it's just kind of like a one amount of value in a box. You're kind of like just trying to hit a mark. With some things like the sausage or the ground beef, you really might be pretty much on target, because your butcher might be like making those pretty consistent sizes. But
perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I would say that's one of the real advantages of doing bundles, is that you can be less precise. But I'll also say that you could choose to be really precise with these. Like if you wanted to do what we described a moment ago with order editing and variable weights, you could take an order for a bundle that was like a generally 60-pound bundle, and then you could, edit it to 58 pounds. If that was what kind of your inventory management and the way that you think about your products required. So yeah, up to you.
Right, which is going to be a little weird if you have a bunch of different things on offer, and that's going to be really consistent if you have a ground beef bundle, for example. But if you have a pork bundle where you have like chops and roasts and leaf lard and like 2 trotters, like the value of that is like a little bit, they're not all exactly the same cost per pound. And maybe you don't even have to anticipate the cost per pound. You just know as a farmer, like this is about this much value.
Yeah. I know when we were raising pigs, we did kind of like, okay, it's about $7 a pound.
Yeah.
Across the board.
Yeah, that's kind of like what I was thinking. Like, could they possibly just say, oh, we're gonna do like $8 across the board per pound? Kind of like if they're buying like a quarter of it, but initially have a part of every cut.
Yeah, I think it's a very reasonable way to do it. Yeah.
Okay.
And then a CSA share is a little bit different than that, because unlike a one-time bundle, a meat or a cheese CSA share is a subscription product. So those could be purchased on a schedule that is maybe monthly or bi-weekly, even weekly if you wanted, especially if it's in conjunction with another, like a vegetable CSA. And then that can have installment payments that are, just like a vegetable CSA. Installment payments on GrownBy can be monthly or weekly or pay in full. We see CSA shares that are mixed meats, right? You might just have a meat CSA, and there might be lamb and chicken and beef and pork. Also, certainly single types, especially because not every farm has every animal. It's also common. And you also could have just like a monthly chicken CSA where you have 2 chickens a month distributed once a month. So that's kind of, lots of people do it lots of different ways, but that's a quick overview. This also works really nicely for cheese. You can have again, a monthly, bi-weekly or weekly cheese share. That's pretty straightforward. And again, I think when we also see it with we have folks who do yogurt shares, stuff like that. You can kind of give a little bit of diversity through the course of a share. So over the course of the season, somebody might get goat cheese in different amounts and different types and with different flavors, but they've signed up for one goat cheese share. I would say that a CSA share as opposed to a bundle can be a better choice for customers with more limited freezer space. So, we have a giant chest freezer in our house. It's no big deal to buy half a pig. But if you have a, small apartment fridge in an urban location, it might be harder to do that. So a share that you have more frequent deliveries may be a better choice. Any questions about that?
I have another question. Since we sell through y'all, so GrownBy is an official online store, I assume, or no?
We're an e-commerce platform.
Okay, so are we able to take bison to a state facility and sell it through y'all, state to state, or no, it has to be USDA?
I don't think that we know the legality of that from a state.
That'd be up to your rules that you follow. But
because in Texas, you can have an online store and have a retail exempt, but your online store, customer orders online and you're shipping direct to customer. So you can sell state to state with the retail exempt. So could we purchase a retail exempt and still get orders through y'all and go to a state facility? Only because there's not really any local USDA in Texas that does bison.
I would say if it's legal from a state perspective for you to sell that way, then there's nothing that says that GrownBy doesn't really have anything to say about that, right? So
Okay.
yeah, if it's legal from the Texas statute, then it would be fine on GrownBy.
Okay.
Yeah.
As an e-commerce platform that operates in 50 US states and Canada, I feel like we are often like, this is not like, we do not give legal advice or tell you how you should sell. We have like created a platform, and then it's kind of on the farm to understand the local rules and regulations for what works for their farm, their tax, like,
Perfect.
yeah, you can accept taxes, but like, I'm not going to tell you what percentage taxes.
Yes.
That
That sounds about right. I was just because Texas, you can now kill a state facility in Texas as long as you have a retail exempt and you sell it online. You can go state to state. That's why I was asking.
Wow, that's really interesting. Yeah, we don't have any kind of provision. Like, I'm in Vermont and I'm a meat producer, but we don't have any kind of provision that would allow us to sell state to state
Without USDA.
Without USDA. Yeah. Yeah.
So like I think we would have to obtain a retail exempt. I just wouldn't know if we would have to be initially in charge of the like e-commerce store, or if we could go through. I'll ask the inspector.
Yeah, I think it's a question for an inspector. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I have a question about the doing meat as a CSA share. Because I'm thinking of adding it, right? So I one of my options is to just put those items, put meat as a product, kind of like in the lamb example, and then people can add it to their share. But I mean, I could also do something like a monthly meat share where they get a variety of stuff. So if I do it like that, is it still same thing? I can still edit the orders with the variable weight feature?
If I'm understanding you correctly, then no, you wouldn't be able to, because it would be like a subscription share product. So it would be like this, essentially, it would be like a bundle every week or bi-weekly or monthly, however you have it set up. So you could, you could edit the order, but you couldn't adjust variable weight.
Yeah, I see. It sounded like we have a salad mix add-on, and so they just get one bag of salad mix, add-on. So it'd be kind of like that. It would function like I guess it wouldn't be an add-on necessarily, but either way, we can't.
Either way, yeah. I mean, I could see. Do you know, Kara, if you had say we're in custom share land, and so the products are known to the system, and we also have order editing on, could you then adjust variable weights in that order editing scenario? I would think that you can.
You could, but they would have to be part.
It would have to be individual products.
Yeah, they would have to be in. Oh, thanks, Kristen. Did you have a question? Oh, no, they just had to run. Okay. Yeah, I think in that scenario, you could edit the orders, but they would have to be part of the custom CSA. And I don't know that you would, I think you would probably want, I would encourage most people who are doing custom CSA to have an add-on meat share that is not customizable and is its own thing, or an add-on meat bundle that is not customizable but is its own thing.
And which you're not really worried about what the exact weight of it is. Or
a la carte. And in most cases, I think the farmers that we have mostly worked with that have custom CSAs and have meat do not want to offer the meat as part of their customizable CSA. It's not covered by the discount code. So customer can buy it for the same delivery, the same location, but it's not covered by the discount code. You can do it either way, but it just can be such a large portion of the weekly customization price that especially if you're buying it in from someone else. So you're not like moving the same amount, you're not moving the weight of vegetables that you're hoping to move as a vegetable farmer. And instead, like your customer's just getting bacon and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, why are you?
Yeah, definitely. I would like, yeah, like I would love it. Actually, it would be best, you know, if they can fill up their share with vegetables, and then if they want to, they can add the meat. So
Yeah.
maybe I need to figure out how to do that. Maybe I'll.
And we can, Danny and I would be happy to meet with you to talk maybe we can about how folks do that. Yeah. And I think that like is kind of ideal, right? Like that means you can buy in from someone else, you know, from a meat farm. It means you can offer these things, but they're not covered by the discount of the customization. But also like from a customer standpoint, you're like, this is amazing. I get like all of my meat and my vegetables kind of out in one fell swoop. I think it's kind of nice.
I will say, just Kim, I don't think that this is your situation because you're a vegetable first farm, but from what I understand, but we do have one farm who is coming onto the platform now who is running side by side custom vegetable and custom meat shares. So, and some customers might have both of those custom shares and be customizing them all together. So that is possible on GrownBy, and it's kind of a neat thing, but that's, you know, probably going to be just for a farm that's producing like this wide variety of both, you know, categories of product.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. Okay, are you ready?
Yep. And this last slide is about photography. Super switch from what we've been talking about so far. But I think this is like one thing to think about when you are selling meat online. So I'm not saying I'm not like an expert on this, and I don't say that there's like one great way to do it, but here are some ways that folks do it. This picture in the top right-hand corner is going to be the easiest for everybody, right? Because if all of these are chicken examples, obviously, because this is what it actually looks like when they get their chicken back from the processor or have processed and labeled on farm. And so they just take a picture of the items, and maybe you have like 100 things and you just take a picture of each of those. One of the upsides of this is it does have the label on it. This can be helpful if you're buying in something from another farm, and then the photo like can prominently display that farm's logo. This is moderately prominent, but you know, that can be a perk. And it's also really easy. It is not like when you look at that frozen chicken, your mouth does not start to water. You're not like, I just cannot wait to eat that. But you get a sense of the size of the chicken. And switching to the photo in the sort of top center from Milbro and Co Farm, like this is, I don't know if they took this photo or if they hired someone to, or if they just got this off the internet, but like this is it's raw meat, which also not always the most tantalizing, but sometimes looks fantastic. There's a little scattering of peppercorns. They have 2 different backgrounds, which looks really pretty. Kristen's farm has great photos of cooked meat too. Thank you for sharing that. And I think that there are, especially with raw, like well marbled raw red meat, can sometimes look beautiful raw and can still feel very mouthwatering. But sometimes even in those photos, you see a sprinkling of sea salt, or you see a little rosemary on the side. I think we had a photo of a meat share a couple pages back that like had those things, and it just looks really pretty. Yeah, that one where like looks better than just hunks of raw meat. You can also have photos of cooked meat, like this Boxcar Acres one, which I think is maybe less styled. That might be a photo they took themselves. But that where you have an idea of what this would look like cooked. You often see like very well seared meat. You don't want anything that's like gray or flaccid or sort of brown looking, right? You really want the like food styled pictures. That can be really hard to do. There's lots of websites about how to take good food photography. But as a person who has sometimes tried it in my own home kitchen, it has been like, sometimes you can get make the food that looks so appetizing in the real world look horrible in a photo. So it is just a thing to think about. There are companies that will do this for you. Taste the Local Difference has which is a company in Michigan, like works with farms to like think about food styling and how food styling and photos of their products can be really useful in online sales. And so it just is a thing to think about, because this is how your customers are seeing your products first. And then there's a picture from Granja Las Aguilas, and that I think is of the actual animal. This may or may not be the photo that they use on the page about their chicken, but I think it's great to show pictures of the live animals at different places on your website. It gives you a sense a little bit of like what the management techniques are, or even, you know, for those of us in the know, like what breed you're growing. Like you look at this picture and you're like, oh, those chickens are on pasture. That's so great. Some customers can find that a little bit off-putting sometimes. You know, a picture of like a bunch of cute lambs may not feel like very mouth-watering to some customers. So it's a thing to think about how you are presenting this thing that is both an animal and a thing you are going to eat. Yeah, and so I think all of these have kind of upsides and downsides, but just any thought that you can give and any additional effort that you can put in, or even money that you can put into food photography, can really make a difference. I think especially when it comes to raw meat. It's not as hard to make a tomato look delicious and lush, but a chicken breast can sometimes look a little gross. So thinking about it is yeah, a good direction. Does anybody, I would love to see, I'm excited to look at Kristen's farm. But if there's anybody who has resources for that, or like something they've done to have better meat photography, I'd be interested to hear in the chat.
Cool. Thank you, Kara. So that's all we have for you today. Oh, Jeanette, did you have something?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. That's all we have for you today. We're happy to answer any questions or have any discussion with you all who are here on the call. And we're also always happy to meet with you one-on-one and talk about the specifics of your farm and what you're trying to do. We don't always have all the answers, but we can find them for you.